What's up, everyone? Tyler DeLuca here, back with my 3 takeaways from this past week in the world of women's basketball. And after Christmas break, it has fully revved up again. Let's get into those 3 takeaways. Starting off with probably the biggest news of the entire week, that Rory Harmon tore her ACL. The star point guard out of Texas is going to be out for the remainder of the season. And of course, who did they face in their first game when it became public? They played Jackson State before, but then they go against Baylor, who was also undefeated, picked up the huge win earlier in the season against Utah, and this was going to be the big prove-it game for both of these teams. And Texas lost, as many expected when this news about Rory Harmon came out. It can't be understated about how important Rory Harmon is to Texas. I think the only player in the nation that can compare to the responsibility that she has on this team is Caitlin Clark. And it's a different type of responsibility because not only is she the primary facilitator for this Texas team, but she's also the primary defender. 40 minutes, full court, guarding the best guard on the other team. And it's relentless. And now they lose that. But here's the thing. Texas isn't going away. They played Baylor incredibly close during that game. Incredibly close. And do I think that they're the national championship team? No. I don't think that they could be that anymore without Rory Harmon. However, this is still a very good basketball team. This is a defensive basketball team, and when you're a defensive team, you're able to withstand some of these big injuries a little bit better than a team that relies purely on offense. And they have one player in particular who makes me believe that they could still make a deep run this season. Madison Booker. This freshman class is insane, and Madison Booker is just another name on that list. I mean, she's incredible. She has guard-like ability in a forward's body, and immediately came in and seemingly had no issue with the demand of a Vic Schaefer team. And if she plays like she did against Baylor, even though it was in the loss, she hooped. She was incredible. If she plays like that, Texas is still going to do a lot of damage in the Big 12 this season and potentially going forward into the NCAA tournament. I'm really intrigued by how this team develops and how Madison develops now that she has this increased responsibility, but don't count Texas all the way out quite yet. Well, if Rory Harmon was the biggest news of the week, the biggest game was absolutely the Battle of LA. UCLA defeats USC. So there's a couple things that I take away from this game. UCLA is building an increasingly impressive resume. Ohio State, Florida State, UConn, and now USC all wins. I think they have an incredibly strong argument to be the number 1 team in the nation right now. It's them in South Carolina. They're in a tier of their own. Right. I mean, the UCLA, they're so complete. I've talked about it before on these videos, but they're so well-rounded. Corey Close is a great coach. They have the guard play. They have the size and bets. There's not much more you could ask for from a team. And especially with, frankly, some of the way that some of the teams that I expected to be better have looked a little bit lesser at times this year. UCLA has no reason why they should not be in the national championship game with the way things stand right now. Assuming that they stay healthy, there's no reason. Anything below that, to me, is a disappointment for how good this team is in comparison to the rest of the field. It's them in South Carolina at the peak of women's basketball right now, and nobody's really close to them in my eyes. However, flipping it, USC, I sent a tweet off during the game, and I said, it was at the very beginning, and it was rough for USC at the beginning of the game. It was rough. And I tweeted out, UCLA looks like a tier 1 team, USC looks like a really young tier 2 or tier 3. But when I tell you that this team started growing up in this game, I mean it. And at the lead charge of that is Juju Watkins, the freshman phenom. I mean, there's no reason that she can't be one of the greats. And I'm not talking this season. I'm not talking about college. I'm talking about all time in women's basketball. I genuinely think she has the potential to go, and there's no ceiling to her potential. She was built for this moment. She was built to be one of the best players in the nation. She's a freshman who came in and has all the responsibility in the world and is putting up a National Player of the Year case in year one. Year one. Now, as a team, I think USC is similar, frankly, to UCLA last year, where it felt like they were a year away, maybe one person away. Because there is a lot of let Juju cook. And I get it, because that's Juju Watkins. I get it. But there's a lot of times where I feel like it kind of becomes a black hole with her and the ball, and with the rest of the team not getting involved. And I don't think that does justice to Juju's skill set in its entirety as well. Obviously, you're going to let Juju go get hers. That's a given. But finding that balance is going to be huge for USC. But they run this game back at USC on January 14th. And when I tell you that has a genuine potential to be a game of the year contender, I mean it. Because that game leveled up. USC leveled up. And you don't think they want revenge? And I'm pretty confident in saying that the Stars are going to be out for that game. I'm ready for that one. And the Battle of LA looks like it should be incredible basketball for this season and for years to come with Juju Watkins at USC and the program that's being built at UCLA. Now, we also got to talk about the rest of the Pac-12 because I'm huge on UCLA. And I think that USC, while they're a tier or two below UCLA, has the talent with Juju Watkins and the rest of the pieces surrounding that they can beat anybody on any given night. I really do think that. But the rest of the Pac-12, this is the best conference in the nation, y'all. In one last hoorah, the Pac-12 showed up, and they are stacked. Like I said, I just talked about both the LA teams, but they also just had Colorado versus Utah, with Colorado picking up the big win to open Pac-12 play. Their hype has kind of died down since that win against LSU to begin this season. I understand it. They lost to NC State. That's the only loss of the season so far. But man, Colorado's good, y'all. Colorado is really, really good. They are an incredibly just smart team, and that it all starts with who I think has a case to be the most underrated player in the entire nation, Jalen Sherrod. Jalen Sherrod is an incredible point guard. She has every making of a point guard that will play for years in the WNBA. She's gritty. She's smart. That's exactly what I want in a point guard is Jalen Sherrod. And because of that, Colorado is a force to be reckoned with. They might slide under the radar again, like they did going into the season against LSU. I wasn't surprised by that win because Colorado is so good. The pieces surrounding them, Vonleh, Big Frida, they have incredible pieces on this team. So don't sleep on Colorado. But even on the flip side, Utah. Now, when they lost Gianna Neepkins, that's a huge loss. It can really not be understated how big of a piece that was, having that number 2 piece next to Alyssa Peely. But with Alyssa Peely on your team, you can beat anybody. They almost did against South Carolina. They struggle in the non-Peely minutes, but man, when Peely is on the floor, she has been absolutely incredible this year. Another player that has a case at National Player of the Year, just because the stats she's putting up, the difference in when she's on the floor versus when she's not for this Utah team, she absolutely has a case. I don't know how the people are going to decide Pac-12 Player of the Year. I really don't. I'm glad that is not my job. I'll stick over here to the Big 12. I'm glad that that's not my job because that sounds so incredibly difficult, and we're just getting started with conference play. And that's the thing. There's more teams. You still have Stanford that has Cam Brink, and then partnering her with Kiki Iriafen. Like, that is so much size. Their guard play worries me. But that size you can't teach that. And many teams can't match up with that size. So, man, Stanford's good too. But even if you get down a little bit deeper, Oregon State is still undefeated. Washington only has 1 loss. 2 very, very solid teams. The Pac-12 is far and away the best conference so far in this season. I don't really see that changing, and there's no reason that they shouldn't have the most teams in the tournament come NCAA tournament time. And if they don't have multiple teams in the Elite Eight, it would be a disappointment because they have all the ability in the world to have multiple teams in that part of the tournament. They're going out with one last hoorah, and the Pac-12 conference this entire year is going to be absolute insanity. I'm going to be tuned in the entire time. All right, y'all, that's going to do it for me this week with my 3 takeaways around the women's basketball world. Let me know if you have any big takeaways, and I'll see you next time.